Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today we'll study the Sappurisa Sutta, or the true man, from the Majjhima Nikaya. The word Sappurisa, though masculine in tone, is applicable to both genders. This is addressed to the monks, but its message is equally relevant to the lay also. Though the Majjhima Nikaya translate it as true man, other words like worthy man, good person, skillful person, sincere person, virtuous person, true individual also may be used. The opposite, Asappurisa, is the opposite of Sappurisa. A Kalyana Mitta versus Papa Mitta also comes to mind in this context, because you see, the Sappurisa is a Kalyana Mitta, noble friend, and Asappurisa is a Papa Mitta, or evil friend, who will draw you to do bad things. The Sappurisa Sutta shows 26 occasions when an Asappurisa acts with conceit or mana, and 27 instances when a Sappurisa practices in a correct and beneficial way. You know, you can see that the Buddha talks about the Asappurisa first and then talks about the Sappurisa. The Asappurisa, even after becoming homeless, that is, becoming a monastic, will consider that high birth, you know, at that time, we are talking of the time of the Buddha, Kshatriya or Brahmin family. You see, someone who has come from a royal family or a Brahmin family, or having wealth and prestige as a greatness. Also, if well known and famous, and because of that fame has many gains, such as property and followers, will act unskillfully with conceit and self-praise. The Buddha shows how a person from such a background may praise himself and degrade or slight others due to birth. You know, the Buddha was always equal, thought of people as equal, never high and low, except for bad people and good people, skillful and unskillful. The Buddha says that a true person, now we are talking of the Sappurisa, would think otherwise. Birth in an aristocratic family, wealth, prestige, fame, or influence are not criteria for honor and praise. These characteristics will not make a person abandon greed, hatred, and delusion, for which purpose we have left home to become monastics. That is how a good person, true individual would think. Sappurisa. Even if someone has not entered the order from a high class family, if that person follows the Dhamma and practices it properly, it's appropriate to honor and praise such a person. Now that's how a Sappurisa would think. People, ordinary lay people would worry about what others think of them. But this is a waste of time, for it's out of our control. And it's also an obstacle to one's tranquility, because you will be thinking all the time, don't know what that one is thinking, don't know whether this one is thinking like this, So it's always good not to think like that. Further, by following a more prominent and powerful person blindly, one may fall into unnecessary trouble. So when you follow someone, that person must be a good person. Then you have to face criticism, a disguised insult, being snubbed or belittled by someone, that can happen to anybody, whether you are monastic or whether you are a lay person. A skillful person would name one's own mistakes and give praise for the excellent qualities you see in others. You see, without bothering about the insults or whatever criticism, you just talk about some, the good of other people. Or just ignore the verbal attacks. When others recognize your equipoise, you will be able to find authentic relationships. Such people are not really wholesome, not good people. So when you are, sort of patient and you don't go to argue with anybody, you can find your own good people of your own, rank or, just like you. Sometimes suffering is caused by a feeling of unworthiness, deficiency, or lack in comparison to one's siblings, friends, etc. Then we should resort to our inner well-being, love, intelligence, and tenderness, and bring the mind back to the present moment, the breath, sensations, and become your own refuge without, looking for refuge elsewhere. Think of your love and faith in your family, the Dhamma, etc., etc., This way, you could undo the habit of envying, comparing, and self-doubt, and cultivate a sense of confidence, trust, and well-being in oneself. Secondly, the Asappurisa considers learning or knowledge as a measure of success. Now, this Asappurisa may be an expert in the Vinaya. The Vinaya is the code of discipline for monastics. Or skilled in preaching the Dhamma, may become well known, loved, and followed by the public. Wherever she or he goes, becomes conceited and full of self-praise, disparages others because of her or his renown. Now this is the ego, you see. Those who have met and listened to the Dalai Lama talks of his humility and compassionate nature, unlike other well-known Dhamma teachers, both lay and ordained. Not everyone is like this, but then there are some who are, very proud of their capabilities. When fame comes to you because of a desire to increase and hold on to it, other responsibilities of family, relatives, friends may be replaced by self-love and fame, which ultimately ends in suffering. You see, just like we know anicca, that is impermanence. So even fame can be impermanent. So when that happens, when it ends in suffering, your expectations are all frustrated. Thirdly, the Buddha points out how certain practitioners who are following the Dhutanga or ascetic practices. You remember the Buddha also did the ascetic practices for 6 years and didn't gain anything. So he gave it up and then took to the middle way, right? Majjhima Patipada. So now there are some people who follow these ascetic practices, like living in a forest or eat alms food only, etc. There are many ascetic practices, right? Looks down on others who do not adhere to such practices. They think that they have an extraordinary power to attract, while slighting others who do not follow this kind of practice. Now, this is the untrue man or the Asappurisa. Now, I think you might have heard of Venerable Mahakassapa, who lived during the Buddha's time. He was the one who finally came to the Buddha at Parinibbana, and Buddha's fire could not be lighted till Mahakassapa came there. Venerable Mahakassapa had to come and then worship the Buddha, pay respect to the Buddha. It's only then that the fire got lighted. So anyway, this Mahakassapa, Venerable Mahakassapa, was a forest dweller. He followed many Dhutangas and a practitioner of Dhutanga. But he lived mostly in seclusion. And even when Buddha invited him to live in the temple, excused himself, saying he was used to living alone in the forest. He was a Sappurisa in totality. These observances may help to cultivate renunciation, because you have to let go of so many things. You can't hold on to any possessions or any wealth or anything like that. You see, so renunciation. Energy, you have to put forth a lot of energy in order to to do these dhutangas, to follow the ascetic practices. Then detachment, you get detached from everybody and you stay in a forest and so on. So, and moderation, because you don't, once you are practicing the dhutanga, you don't take extra food, extra clothes, nothing extra, only in moderation. And also fewness of needs, very little that such people need. So these are good things for a Sappurisa, but not for the Asappurisa. Possessions are bound up with I-ness, you see, I-ness and minus, I and mine, you see, myself. Attachment is a mental affliction that is woven to self-conceit. You see, those two go together. For example, when we say my child, the word my shows a sense of ownership or relationship. But if that relationship changes, I suffer because of my attachment. As long as I hold on and grasp this idea of self as the child's parent or protector. So can you see? That doesn't mean that you should not think of the child as your child. That's a different thing. If I am in the Dhamma, I may understand that change is possible. The child will grow up, the child will go away. The child might get another partner and go to another home. So all the change is possible. Then I would be a Sappurisa. If I know that change is possible and accept that change. Non-attachment is not indifference. Don't think of it as indifference. True non-attachment would go into upekka. You know the word upekka, or equanimity, which strengthens the mind to be unshaken when changes occur. Right? When changes occur, we have to accept it, not get upset about it. Now the next thing is gain. Gain, according to the Buddha, whether in the four requisites or other things, should not make anyone conceited or feel elated. The Buddha points out that the Sappurisa will remain unmoved in both gain and praise, as gain will not eliminate greed, hatred, and delusion. Those three are the things that bind us to samsara. So we have to be very careful about those three things: greed, hatred, and delusion. So gain and praise is not going to help you to eliminate those things. The true man or Sappurisa will not praise himself or disparage others for not receiving gain, but live in accordance with the Dhamma. You know, santutti paramang dhanam, to be happy with what you have. Among the lay community too, there are people who do not mix with or associate those who are not successful in their careers or whom they consider below them. This is how humans are divided according to class, position, and wealth. You know how much Buddha tried to make the sasana a very equal kind of place. Nobody was higher or lower according to birth or wealth or gain or anything like that. But only by lineage and by, the fact that you have attained some kind of spiritual attainment, then only that you are higher than the others. The word Sappurisa can refer to even unawakened or lay people or ordained practitioners or even to arahants. So you can see this word Sappurisa can be used for lay people, for monastics, for even ordinary monastics, who have not gained any attainments, or even arahants. The Sappurisa Dana Sutta in the numerical discourses, that is the Anguttara Nikaya, briefly defines the true lay practitioner as a true giver. True giver means, now people give things, right? But the intention is the most important part, you see. So if someone gives because the other person is giving, or because you're forced to give, or because of some other reason, but a true giver is one who gives alms, not necessarily dana to monastic, but to anybody, what is pure, especially to the monastics, gives what is pure. Choice. Choice means something good at the correct time. Now that is also important because monastics don't take food always. You see, there are limits to the time. So at the correct time, what is allowable? There are certain things that are not allowable. Again and again, that such a person would give again and again, not give once and then forget about it. With a radiant mind, full of faith, and is happy and satisfied before giving. That is, when you are thinking of giving and then, making preparation, you are so happy. Then, while giving and also after giving, is very, very happy. Now, that is what you call pin or merit, right? So, the Majjhima Nikaya defines Sappurisa as one who is moral, learned, energetic, wise, and holder of right view. Now, that's very important, right view. The first one in the Noble Eightfold Path. Also, she or he understands the true purpose of renunciation and the holy life. Even if unawakened, a Sappurisa would understand himself and others. You see, now it is very important that we understand ourselves, isn't that so? So now a Sappurisa is one who understands oneself and also others, see, and also reality to some degree. As the goal of the path is elimination of greed, hatred, and delusion, cultivation of generosity or chaga helps to weaken the ego. When giving is done with wisdom and understanding of karma and rebirth and impermanence too would arise in the mind, which could lead to wisdom. Now see that when you give, if you give with wisdom, you know why you are doing it. You know that there is karma, good karma in giving. That such a person will get wiser day by day. The egoism that covers people's minds is not only due to miserliness and ignorance, but also due to carelessness with regard to karma and rebirth. Now, especially in the West, I have heard many people say they don't believe in rebirth. It's okay if you don't believe in rebirth, but do good things. Because then, you see, whether you believe or not, as Buddha says, you will get a good rebirth when it comes, you see. So, that's why the Sappurisa will always try to keep the precepts, at least the 5 precepts. But the Asappurisa will constantly break them. For she or he is ignorant, confused, and hollow. She or he would encourage others also to break the precepts. Now that is even worse than someone breaking one's own precepts, to make other people do the same. On account of jhana experience, now this is the next thing that Buddha was talking about, you see, jhana experience, which even the Asappurisa attains. You remember Devadatta, who was the Buddha's enemy, who was always doing bad things to the Buddha, trying to kill him. He also was able to attain jhana, right? So even Asappurisa can attain jhana. Now when that happens, while his fellow practitioners have not attained, He will extol himself, considering himself more accomplished and filled with self-conceit, belittle others who have not attained to states of jhana. Because of this pride or mana in his achievement, he is not a true practitioner and he is unable to progress towards liberation. So you see that now that is what happened to Devadatta. In the end, he went to hell. You see, so though he had the potential to become an arahant, but the way he used his skills was all evil. On the other hand, even when the Sappurisa manages to attain any of the jhanas or the formless attainments, after the 4 jhana, there are the other 4 higher. They are sometimes called jhana, but they are called ayatana or they are called states. So, the formless states, he does not use them as a criteria of his superiority over others who have not attained them. We can see that the Asappurisa does not progress because he is attached to his successors. So attachment, even in this case, is not a good thing. The Dhammapada praises the Sappurisa in this verse. It's number 54 in the Dhammapada. Na puppa gandho pativatang eti na chandanang tagara mallikava satancha gandho pativatang eti sabbadisa sappuriso pavati. Now this is the meaning of this verse. The fragrance of flowers blow not against the wind. You see, it will go with the wind, the fragrance of flowers. The wind takes the fragrance from the flowers and blows. Nor does sandalwood, nor tagara, nor jasmine. Now all these are fragrant plants that people those days used to make, for use because of their fragrance. But the fragrance of the good blows against the wind. You see, when someone is good, that fragrance, Buddha calls it fragrance, it goes against the wind. That means it does not need the wind to take it. It goes all over. The true individual sweetens every quarter because his goodness will spread everywhere. Everybody will come to know as such a good person and they will honor and respect that person. So, a Sappurisa is one who tries to get rid of greed, hatred, conceit, envy, and other such defilements that invade the mind and cultivate kindness, love, compassion, letting go, etc. Right now, the opposite of the bad things, the Sappurisa will try to cultivate. A Sappurisa in the mundane world could be one who tries to alleviate the suffering of his or her fellow members. So I'm going to talk about some Sappurisas that lived with us. Nelson Mandela could be called a Sappurisa of our time, for he sacrificed his entire life towards gaining democracy for his country. He was able to gain political and economic rights for the native black people and end the racial segregation of apartheid. So I'm sure you know more about Nelson Mandela, so I'm not going into details. Another worldly Sappurisa is Martin Luther King Jr., who was a pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Alabama. Even in US too, there was racial segregation in all spheres of life. But Dr. King was able to end this segregation and other injustices by his talks, books, and articles, though he was assassinated in 1968. So good people are not recognized always, right? Another Sappurisa of our time is Mother Teresa. She became a nun and traveled to India, where she founded the Missionary of Charity, a Roman Catholic religious organization in 1950. In her words, her work would be, now these are her words, to care for the hungry, the naked, the homeless, the crippled, the blind, the lepers, all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared for throughout society, people that have become a burden to society and are shunned by everyone. So she took care of those people. After her death, she was honored in the Catholic Church as Saint Teresa of Calcutta. She was made a saint. All three of them received the Nobel Peace Prize. But among us, now I'm talking about the people whom I have come to know. But among us, there are many Sappurisas who remain unrecognized. You see, they don't receive Nobel Peace Prizes, but they are Sappurisas nevertheless. They lead ordinary lives, but by their dedication to truth, kindness, compassion, and service to others, they create good karma here and will rejoice hereafter. Thank you. So, if you have any questions, please ask. Then, shall we do a little meditation? So, you know that you have a question? No. Anyone has a question? Okay. Now, when you sit down to meditate, you know that you have to have the body straight, that is the head on the neck, then the spine straight, and then sit down. You can sit on a chair, or you can sit cross-legged, or, you know, the bottom part is okay, but it's the top part that has to be very clearly straight and sit properly. So that you breathe properly and you breathe out properly. Breathe in and out, right? So, now today, the meditation is about the elements. Take a few deep breaths first. Right? Now close your eyes. This body has 5 elements. 1, the earth element. 2, the water element. 3, heat element. 4. Air element. 5. Consciousness element. So there are 5 elements. Just think of it generally as earth element, water element, heat element, air element, and consciousness element. These are the 5 elements. Now we will look at the earth element today. In this body made up of elements, there is head hair, which is without volition. The head hair has no thought or karmic action. It does not create karma. And it's not a being. It's not a being. In this body made up of elements, there is head hair, which is without volition or karmic action and not a being. In this body made up of elements, there is body hair, which is without volition or karmic action and not a being. In this body made up of elements, there is body hair, which is without volition or karmic action and not a being. In this body made up of elements, there are nails at the ends of the fingers that has no volition or karmic action and no being. In this body made up of elements, there are nails at the ends of the fingers that has no volition or karmic action and no being. In this body made up of elements, there are teeth on the jaws that have no volition or karmic action and no being. In this body made up of elements, there are teeth on the jaws that have no volition or karmic action and no being. In this body made up of elements, there is a skin that has no volition or karmic action and is not a being. In this body made up of elements, there is a skin that has no volition or karmic action and is not a being. All these have the characteristic of hardness. All these have the characteristic of hardness. They arise and fall away. They arise and fall away. Every moment. They arise and fall away every moment. They are impermanent, anicca, bring suffering, dukkha, and are uncontrollable. We have no control over them. Anatta, they are not mine, they are not I, and they are not myself. They are not mine, they are not I, and they are not myself. They are not mine, they are not I, and they are not myself. Slowly open your eyes. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I have a request to make. I want to ask you if there is any sutta that you would like to discuss other than the ones that we have already discussed. Please let me know. You can send me by email if you like, or you can tell me now.
Hello. I have a question about saying a mantra. Uh, what is an easy mantra to say to bring about a positive? Like you say, chants sometimes. Um, like my grandma's coming to visit us, and we don't get along sometimes. I was wondering if there's something, um, a chant, a simple one that I could say to help. Um,
The best one that you could do is loving kindness meditation. Because when you do loving kindness, first of all, you spread love and kindness both to yourself as well as to the other. So what you should do is now say, may first say to yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may no anger come to me, may I not be angry, may I be peaceful, may no harm come to me. You know, like that. You can think of what wishes you can make, and then wish the same for the other person. Say, if it is your grandma, you can say, may my grandma be happy. May she be well. May she be peaceful. May she not get upset. May she, like that. You can make up your. May no harm come to her. You can think of what good kind things that you could expect to give her, as well as for her to cultivate. So when you can say them also if you like for her to hear. Also, you could do them by yourself. You know, like a meditation, that is also possible. So any other chant that you could do is like say. I can give you a chant from the from a Bhavana book. Now, when you do something, this is also a very good one. I don't know whether you can remember the Pali. Dukkha pattacha niddukha, bhaya pattacha nibbhaya, soka pattacha nissoka, hunti sabbepi panino. Maybe you can't remember the Pali, can you? Now, this is the English of it. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. I can send it to you by email. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, please remember my request. If there is anything that you would like me to discuss with you, any sutta, please let me know.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit confused. That's why. So like everything like made from like how many elements? Like 8 elements we call Shuddhashtaka, or like 5 elements?
Yes,
What
there
is the
are
difference?
elements can be divided into so many. You see,
Okay.
at different times, Buddha has divided into different numbers. Now, these 5 that I talked about are the ones in this particular sutta. In another
Okay.
sutta, it might be just 4 of them without consciousness. Then also these can be again divided into, many, hundreds of elements actually. So, depending on the people who are listening, Buddha has given it in that form. You find it in Abhidhamma.
Okay. So normally, like they say, like Shuddhashtaka, and then like a, like Chakku Vinyana and those kind where like I. So you have like Shuddhashtaka, and there are 2 more with the consciousness, and then Chakku Vinyana, and then some other thing in there. So 10 things in there, right? In different places of the body. So
So,
you know what I mean? Like a whole body, like most places are made from like Shuddhashtaka, right?
now when it is, now when you are talking of this Chakku Vinyana,
Yeah.
what happens is the Vinyana is the consciousness.
Right.
So the consciousness, when the Chakku is the eye,
Yeah.
when eye meets or contacts, it's called passa, when the eye contacts the object, whatever the object, right? Whatever the object, then at that point, the Vijnana comes there. If the Vijnana does not come there, you will not see.
Right. So,
right?
that
is what happens. Chakku Vijnana is like that. So, but all these are called elements by the Buddha, but at different places, it's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
But mainly we are talking about 5 or like 8, but it depends, right?
Sometimes it's given as 8, yes. Sometimes given as 8 with space as 1, like that, different categories of elements. So, actually, when you go to see, you can think of all these things that you find up as elements, you see? So,
right.
Especially the body.
Yeah. Okay. Because what I was listening to this Abhidhamma, and then they are saying like a whole body, like most parts have like Shuddhashtaka, meaning 8 elements, and then special places. For example, in the eye, when we are like the light goes, and where like in the eye there is this place where the light focus.
Yes,
so they are like it's called the Shuddhashtaka. Like it's called the Chakku Pasada, right?
That's right. Yes. The
so there are 10 things.
Pasada means the sort of the characteristic of seeing.
Okay.
You see, otherwise, if it was not there now, for a blind person, it is not there.
Right.
So then he or she cannot see.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit confused when you are talking only 5, so that's why I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll meet in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all for coming.